The number of sales are down, inventory is increasing, but prices are higher than last year. Today, we're going to get into the details of what's been happening during the first half of 2024 in the Florida housing market that somehow seems to be defying logic. Hey everybody, I'm Melanie Atkinson, realtor with Compass in beautiful Tampa, Florida. Today we're going to talk about the first 6 months of the Florida housing market. If this is the first time you have seen me, you should know that I am a full-time realtor who uses sales data and my everyday on-the-ground experience to keep everyone updated. I am happy to talk about a market crash if I see one, but if I don't, I won't. I wish I did. I'd get a lot more views. If you do find value in this episode, please click those like and follow buttons. Okay, so we're going to talk about the whole state of Florida because I think there's a huge value in looking at the big picture. But we also have to keep in mind that real estate is very local. So if you're thinking about moving to a particular area in Florida, you definitely need to dig into that local data. The first question to answer, are people still moving to Florida in 2024? Yes, they definitely are. In April, the total population of Florida went over 23 million for the first time. It is estimated that there are 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. That is down from the peak COVID years when there were about 1,200 people a day moving to Florida. Okay, so people are still moving here. They have to have a place to live. They have to decide whether to rent or buy. Let's talk about rentals first. According to Redfin, the average rent prices in the 4 most populous metro areas in Florida have decreased this year. For instance, here in Tampa, those average rent prices have decreased around 6%. Now, keep in mind that rent prices increased very quickly, around 38% here in Tampa, so a 6% decrease is modest in the big picture of housing affordability. But at least the scale seems to have tipped. Apartment construction has been booming all over Florida, so this rent price stabilization and decrease indicates to me that supply has finally caught up with demand. So what about home sales so far in 2024? My favorite place to start here is to look at the total number of home sales. It shows the activity of the market without looking at the price. The number of single-family home sales in Florida is down almost 3% in comparison to the first half of last year. Just working every day in real estate, I absolutely would have guessed it would be down. It is slower. The bigger decrease in number of sales is seen in the condo and townhouse market. The total number of those sales is down around 9% year over year. That is primarily because of the condo market challenges that we will talk about shortly. To summarize this data, the number of sales are down so far this year. But to be honest, we expected that because of housing affordability, the decreased pace of people moving here, and the fact that a lot of homeowners still don't want to sell their homes. It's notable, but not shocking. However, when we start talking about inventory, things get a little shocking. When referring to inventory, I talk about it in terms of months of inventory. According to the Florida Realtors, the benchmark for a balanced market is 5.5 months of inventory. If you have less than 5.5 months of inventory, it's considered a seller's market. If you have more, then it's considered a buyer's market. Using that criteria, we have been in a seller's market for 10 years in Florida. I have to go back to April of 2014 to find inventory rates over 5.5 months. Me personally, I feel like the tipping point is closer to 3 to 4 months. When you get to 3 months of inventory, you start seeing a balance of prices, and then they start shifting based on desirability of a particular property. Properties with obvious buyer objections will start going down in price well before 5.5 months of inventory. How's our inventory in Florida looking for the first half of 2024? It's high. At the end of June for single-family homes, there was 4.6 months of inventory on the market. That is a 64% increase from 2023. For condos and townhomes, there is 7.4 months of inventory. That is an increase of over 105% from a year ago. That gets my attention because 2023 wasn't some crazy real estate year like the previous ones were. we are pretty close to comparing apples to apples here. We genuinely have more apples for sale now. This tells us that housing supply is either catching up or outpacing demand throughout the state. And I'll say this once again because I can't stress it enough. Real estate is very local, so these inventory rates may be lower or higher depending on where you're looking. When supply outpaces demand, we should start seeing prices go down, and this is where the data gets weird. The median sales price for single-family homes has gone up again. It's now at $428,000, a historical high. And for condos and townhomes, it is at $330,000. That is also a historical high. So we have increasing inventory, increasing time on market, a decreasing number of sales, but still an increase in median prices. How does that happen? I have two thoughts. Pay close attention to the second one. First, I do think median prices will start trending down, especially for condos. The inventory has gone up too fast and should continue to go up because of the challenges that condo complexes have. To summarize very quickly what those challenges are, condo buildings are now required to have structural integrity inspections to make sure they don't have any construction maintenance items or defects. And they're also now required to have reserves in place to pay for future maintenance items. Because of these new requirements, a lot of condos have had to have special assessments, and a lot of condo owners are bailing, either because they can't afford the assessments or they just don't want to deal with them. This is going to continue to increase the condo inventory in Florida and will absolutely be an area where buyers can get a better deal. But buyer beware. Do your due diligence on the condo association and make sure they have their structural integrity reports done and you know about any special assessments. My second thought is my theory on why median prices are still so high. We know that people are still moving here and they are still buying houses. But as the number of options increase, buyers tend to choose the nicest houses available in their price range. They are not choosing the houses with obvious objections. Those objections can be anything from the condition of a home to an overinflated list price. It's these objectable houses that linger the longest on the market, and they will continue to until either demand increases or their list price reflects those objections. But you aren't seeing the sales prices of the most objectionable houses factored into the data yet because they haven't sold. The ones that are selling are the pretty ones, and buyers are still willing and able to pay for houses that aren't objectionable. There is still a lot of money coming into Florida. So if you are a buyer waiting for deals, they may already be out there depending on where you're looking. But you need to be realistic on what the condition will be of the house you can get for the best deal. If a house is lingering on the market, ask yourself why. Is it in a flood zone? Can you not get homeowners insurance on it? Are there special assessments? Is there a bunch of new construction nearby that buyers will pick because of the warranties and the financing deals that builders can give? If you are comfortable with any of the potential issues on a house, go ahead and put an offer in. Sellers are more negotiable now than I've seen them in a very long time. In summary, the Florida housing market halfway through 2024 is more balanced than it was a year ago and is tipping in the buyer's favor for the most vulnerable locations, types, and conditions of homes. There are still people moving here, and they have more housing options than they have had in 10 years, so they can be picky. Sellers need to be realistic and prepare and price their house aggressively to stand out. Because we had such huge price increases over the past couple of years, most homeowners are still sitting on tons of equity, so if they need to sell, they don't have to foreclose or short sell their homes yet. But I am watching very closely, and you should too, the condo market and the areas that are far away from the cities that have had a lot of new construction in the past 2 years. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you want to watch anything else on this channel, take a look at an inventory video I did on the Tampa area recently. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.